This is Central Texas Living with Ann Harder.
The coronavirus has shaken us to the core and fundamentally changed our lives for a season, at least here in Central Texas. And the way we live our lives, we conduct our business, school our children, well, all that has changed. So how do we manage the stress and emotional upheaval all this is bringing? It's my delight to welcome licensed professional counselor Jason P. Francis to talk about just that. How are you doing, Jason?
Hey, I'm fine, Ann. Thank you. How are you?
Well, we're hunkered down, as most people say, hunkering down and trying to stay safe, as they say. And but I think everybody, myself included, has kind of gone through a range of emotions. And I read an article in the Harvard Business Review. Scott Bernato writes the discomfort, he says, you're feeling is grief. Is it fair to call some of what we're experiencing grief?
Yeah, I think looking at that perspective does make a bit of sense for everything that we're going through with this particular season. Particularly, for example, like a lot of the seniors from like college and from high schoolers who are having to grieve their whole idea of what this time was supposed to be. Or any of us for that matter, but particularly for some of those kind of populations that we are having to go through kind of a loss. I mean, we're losing a lot of our expectations of something else, of what we think were going to happen or what should have happened. And so when those don't occur, I mean, it does leave you with this gap of an emotion inside of you that you don't know what to do with. And I think calling it grief is definitely a way to put a word to it. And all that goes along with grief, like the anger and the depressive part of it, and the bargaining that if we could just do it different, this would be better. And so I do think that kind of fits, actually.
He also goes on to talk about different kinds of grief. That was a little bit surprising to me, but he refers to something he calls anticipatory grief, when the future is uncertain.
Yes, exactly. Then things that we don't even know we're going to lose, but we anticipate that we will. In the kind of death that goes along with what we're experiencing when we talk about grief. I mean, there's kind of a social death that we've had to in some ways endure through this, when we can't be around our family and our friends like we normally are, and we can't go to the senior prom, or we can't walk the stage for graduation. We're grieving the loss and the death of a lot of these social events. And so I think for some people, it almost becomes like we're having to grieve these social deaths as well.
Well, we're definitely social animals. And I guess that's one good thing about social media. It has certainly kept folks sort of connected. But how can we manage all these things we're feeling?
Yeah, I still am seeing patients, throughout all this, and luckily for I think us, we are able to, as an essential business, if you want to call it. I really don't like the word essential business, actually, but I understand what they mean by that we can help people do exactly what you're talking about, work through all of the emotional things that we feel going through this, along from grief and from anger and disappointment and all these. And some of the things that I tell the patients that I'm working with continually through my practice is that I think it's important to continue to go on as much as we can like normal. I mean, there's so many things that we still can do, and we still can function like we normally do. In other words, we still can get up. We can still, get dressed. We can still have breakfast. We can still set the day to be productive. And so there's things like that we can do. And social media, like you say, is one way to be able to still connect with people, being able to FaceTime and be able to be a part of somebody else's interaction, I do think is important. And so, to work on routine, to keep our schedules as much as possible to where we don't completely uproot and isolate in our cave, so to speak, of that, the ultimate man cave, right? You go into your man cave for an evening is one thing, but when you go into it for 4 weeks at a time, it becomes a bit more isolative and lonely. So I think to combat that, we still have to get out and do some things that we normally would do. And as social creatures, as you said, part of that's being in contact with other people to where we can still have some normalcy to life.
As a part of this, your mind is just racing, and people are dealing with the loss of livelihoods, and how am I going to pay the bills, and really significant stresses. but what can we do to kind of make those feelings maybe less intense? How can we let go, I guess, of what we can't control?
Yeah, so that's the hard question. And I think for people who are a bit more mentally healthy at the beginning of all this, so when I say mentally healthy, what I mean is people who were coping fairly well, people who were already, finding joy in life and being able to experience that. So for people who have gone into this type of season with that as the precursor, they were already doing well. I think it's a bit easier for us to wrap our mind around that we're still going to come out on the other end of it okay. However, for people who are already experiencing depression or already experiencing a lot of high anxiety, or particularly for people like, for who battle with obsessive compulsive disorder, I mean, they're really on edge right now because they're worried about contracting the virus, And so for those people, the story's a bit different, But to combat it, I think what we have to do is as much as we can, know that we're not in it alone. And it makes the part, again, of the connection that's so important. That unlike other things in life, this is something that we as a community, as a state, as a country, even as a world, are going through together. And so it's when you look at it, that can overwhelm some people, I think, if you think that the entire world is going through it. But on the other hand, it can bring some relief, I think, that if we know we're not alone in the journey, and that there is another side, particularly when you start seeing some places like in China and some of the other countries that are coming out on the other side. They're not out of it by all means, but they're in a different phase of the journey than we are. So we're beginning to see some light at the end of the tunnel. And I think it's important to focus ahead and not as much as on the current situation of being in a crisis, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and you mentioned, like some of your clients who are dealing with certain emotional stresses to begin with, and then this happens, and I often think of folks that deal with addiction and how difficult this must be, because I mean the liquor stores are delivering to the door.
True, that's such a slippery slope there, isn't it? I mean, one of the things with addiction particularly is when we begin to isolate and we begin to go into that secretive I'm alone time. I mean, that's where a lot of the addiction really kind of stirs up, is when we can hide it and we can be away from everybody else, and we don't have to be exposed with it. So I mean, there is a part of that that's very, very difficult to combat when you're dealing with somebody who has some of those addictive traits. The other part of it for the alcoholism, and I think that what I've tried to help some other people understand too about that, is we really, boy, it's a slippery slope, because at this point during a pandemic, particularly when we need the hospital beds for people who potentially are going to require treatment for the virus, we don't need to be put into a position, particularly with alcoholics, that they go into detox and require hospitalization because they possibly can go into seizures or different things that we don't think about on the other side of the alcoholism. If they come off of the alcohol cold turkey, a lot of times they do require and may require hospitalization. So it's a slippery slope and kind of a double-edged sword. We don't want to continue to enable them to be, to go to that alcohol for a resource, and we don't want them to, I guess, increase their addiction. But at the same time, keeping it from them might be even more tragic for everybody involved, because then our beds might be used for things other than what we need them for. That, again, if that makes sense to you, it's such a slippery slope.
Well, there's no question it's a complex issue.
Yeah.
You touched on just a little bit ago about music and outlets and things, or at least I was getting from that. And I don't want us to leave without talking about your work as a professional musician too. And and your colleague and fellow musician, Jeannie Williams, founded a nonprofit. It's called Therapy Center Stage Production. In fact, I met you through the show that I guess we've done it 3 years now, called Stages. And let's just talk a little bit about that, how this is a time at home. Maybe musicians can, I know they've been sharing a lot on social media, but to continue to kind of hone their particular talents.
Yeah, I love the fact that this can spark creativity. and not just creativity as far as like creating the music, but a very creative way about how to stay connected with your audience or how to stay connected with other people. And music can be so healing, and that's part of what we started the whole Therapy Center Stage Productions for, is that there's such a power to the expressive and creative arts when it comes to being able to heal the soul. And so for them to be able to continue to offer that through like these Facebook Live concerts and getting people out of their head of in the sense of worrying about the pandemic or worrying about what they can't do, to get them into a space to where it can be uplifting and you can find some comfort. I mean, I think it's fabulous that's going. And I say everybody is creative to a certain degree. You know, some people are like, oh, well, I can't sing, or, you know, or I'm not as good as that other person. It's not about that as much as it is about the joy that you can experience internally from the music that you bring, or from the art that you can create, or from the dance that you can do. And and then that it ignites a whole other part of your brain to where it can take you away or alleviate or lessen some of the anxiety and stress, and maybe even the depression that we can find ourselves in general, and particularly under a time like we have now, where there's so much going on. So, man, how wonderful is it that we can still do that for each other, and do that as a part. Music also too is a collective thing. People can tend to they pull together. I mean, music is something that you can share with other people, and so just the ability to just share it together also pulls people together. And I'm finding that that's happening more and more. I know you've seen probably on Facebook and some of the other social media outlets where people in Italy, for example, where people are singing from the balconies and filling the streets with music because everyone is singing from their flats. I mean, it's incredible that can be done. So healing.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And you have just recently released some music. Tell us about that.
I did. You know, it's been a journey. I've been working on an album for about 3 years, and I think that we finally have a release date for the album on 1st of May. At the latest, probably the 15th of May. There's a couple of things that we're doing, but yeah, I mean, the whole point of that album that I started a couple of years ago is to bring hope to the hurting soul. You know, it's a Christian genre mixed in with some Americana music and some different types of old standards that I think we've all heard before. But the whole idea of that was to be able to have a 45, 50-minute reflection time, if you will. It's designed to where the person can turn it on and just start from start to finish, and to get into kind of a meditative or a prayerful kind of a space to be able to focus on, again, not what we don't have, but what we do have, that we do have healing, and we do have peace, and we do have hope. Because without that, what do we have? You know, it leaves us with nothing. So I wanted to bring a project to where it speaks to our healing and our comfort through Christ, number one, but also just in togetherness with our family and friends. And it's been a journey, but it's interesting now that it's you know, everything in God's timing, right? You know, I in the past have been kind of I guess pressured. I wanted to get it out, but you know, now releasing it during this time is actually, I think that's kind of worked out pretty well.
Yeah, it does. It sounds like that's the case indeed. I'm looking forward to hearing it myself. I appreciate your time, but I want to end the interview with it's kind of a similar questionnaire that the late James Lipton used on his show Inside the Actor's Studio. Are you familiar with that?
I love that show. Yeah.
Okay, all right, here we go. What's your favorite word?
Oh, what's my favorite word? Oh, wow. I never been asked that question, actually. Oh, that's a hard one, Anne. You in the interview on a hard question. I think my favorite word's hope.
Very good. What about
Hope.
your least favorite word?
Oh, I've got several of those too. I think my least favorite word is can't.
What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Again, a very complex question, but I think times when I have to reflect. I think when you have, which is what's the beauty behind this for me, and is been interesting, is that it's slowed me down some to where I'm not constantly on the go. I'm always doing something. So this has kind of slowed me down to get me into a reflective state. And when I become reflective like that, I think it just sparks this creativity bug inside of me to where that just begins to be able to pour out, because I can focus my attention on that creative process at that point. But yeah, it's slowing down. Reflection.
What sound do you most love?
I love the beach. I love the sound of the ocean waves coming and going.
Mhm.
It's kind of like my go-to place. I love that. So anything that's kind of rhythmic, that comes in and out, kind of like that breath. There's a breathing to that. There's a breath of fresh air that comes in. And then
Yeah.
you also can relieve and exhale the tension. So anything like that, but definitely the sounds of an ocean wave that's my happy place.
Well, what sound do you hate?
Uh, oh goodness, I hate repetitive loud sounds. I'm a pretty quiet kind of person, and
Yeah.
so anything that's repetitive and loud, that's startling, I don't like those. I
Yeah,
don't like
car
those
alarms.
loud car alarms, barking bars, or barking dogs next door, or something like that.
Right, right. All right. What other profession would you like to have tried?
Mm, I, I think a veterinarian,
Okay.
which is
Speaking of
something totally
dogs.
different. But I love animals. I love every type of animal. My wife, I mean, she keeps us from having a farm at the house because I'd bring them all home. But yeah, a veterinarian. I'd love to work with animals.
What job do you know you would not want?
uh, a waiter. I don't think I have the patience for it.
Yeah.
It's too stressful. It's too stressful. A lot of noise. I when people wait on me, they get a good tip because I know they've gone through a lot.
That's right. So finally, what do you want to hear God say to you when you get to those pearly gates?
Oh man, that I was good enough and my time was spent well, in spreading His love to other people.
Yeah, very good. Jason, thank you so much. I know you've been a help to folks who are listening. Just some ways that we can sort of slow down, tap into our creativity, and and get through these strange times.
Very strange times. None of us have ever lived anything like it, have we? I mean, this is the first for us all.
Yeah.
And to be able to do it together, and again, it goes back to the word togetherness here. I mean, we're stronger in numbers, and pretty much anything we do, and particularly pulling each other through this time is extremely important.
All right. Thank you so much, Jason.
Yeah, thank you, Ann. Appreciate you having me on.
Good. Our shutdown has also shut down a growing music scene in Waco, at least for now. But there are no greater supporters of Waco's diverse music than Katie Selman and Jacob Green, husband-wife team, which co-founded Keep Waco Loud. And Keep Waco Loud's coming up on its first anniversary, guys. How are you today?
Well, we're doing great. Despite the circumstance, we're holding up and staying positive, and I'm sure hopefully we'll get out of this soon. But we're doing great. I hope you're doing great as well.
Yeah, me too.
Oh yeah. The good Texas term, we're hunkering down.
Absolutely.
Perfect term.
I want to know, how you guys, first of all, I want folks to understand what Keep Waco Loud is and how you support the music scene. And now with the shutdown, how things have changed for y'all.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, things have changed a lot for us over the past year since we launched. When we first launched and first sat down with you, our goal was to show Waco that there was a diverse scene, that there was different types of music out there, and we wanted to build this platform. I think we, in that year, I think not our motto, but our goal at this point isn't just to show Waco, because I think we've kind of done that. Sure. I think our goal about a month or so ago was, okay, now let's grow it. Let's create a bigger platform. And we had a pretty big show planned for March 15th, which was canceled. So it kind of put us in shock for a while. We were kind of in this state of, okay, what do we do? We've been planning this event for months, and now it's over, and we don't know when we will ever get to reschedule. So Mike, our producer, he actually was the one who really pushes and was like, I think we can do this well. We could go online. We could do an open mic. Let's recreate or try to recreate what we did on our weekly open mic at Classy Glass.
Yeah, and the open mic was really the foundation of what we were trying to do in the beginning, which is, as Katie said, to show Waco what it is, what it has. And that happened to be just sort of the heart of where all the bridge building was happening, and the beacon and the bat signal, so to speak, for the local musicians and poets, and that maybe didn't have the platform before. We wanted that to be that. And it took us a good 2 to 3 weeks to really adjust to what was going on. And then at that point is when Mike, as Katie said, came to us with this idea for doing this online.
For sure.
Yeah, have you gotten a good response from this?
I think so. I mean, at Classy Glass, I think we averaged, I would say in the room, you're probably around 50 to 75 people, which is a small room. So it feels very packed.
It was.
Yeah, sure.
But, you know, it was still a great crowd, and it gave people an opportunity to perform in front of 50 to 75 people. But our show that we put on this past Monday, I checked it yesterday, we were almost at 1,000 views, which, you know, that's crazy. You know, 1,000 people, and doesn't mean they sat there the entire hour and watched, but for at least a moment, they watched this performance.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw the name of somebody. I mean, getting the name out, which is kind of, I think, another one of your primary goals.
Absolutely. You know, people ask us all the time, what can we do to support artists during this time? And the easiest, cheapest way that you can support local artists right now is to share their music, share their streams. If you don't have $5 to give to their virtual tip jars, you know, just helping get their name out there. Name recognition is everything.
Someone else might have the $5 in there.
For sure.
After you've shared it. Yeah.
Well, I was on your Facebook page, you know, and people were like, oh, I miss our downtown music scene. I miss being with people. There is such a hunger now and a longing that when we are able to, Katie bar the door, so as to speak.
For sure. I mean, it's crazy how much, I mean, that performance we aired on Monday was it was on February 29th on Leap Day. And it's like, I can't believe I took advantage of that. If I had known that was the last time I was going to see some of these people, I don't know, I probably would have stayed out longer or talked to some people longer, or, you know, not taken advantage of the moment.
Oh yeah. I think, you know, this has caused us all to slow down and stop and kind of take stock in what is important. What kind of insights do you have through this shutdown we've had?
I think what's important to realize is that our art scene, our music scene, our comedy scene, those are part of the brand that is Waco. Yeah. And if we want to make sure that we support these artists and musicians just as much as we support the local businesses that are here in Waco, because we want to have a Waco that we recognize, that we have grown to love over the past few years during this, you know, tremendous growth that Waco has experienced. And I want to be able to recognize the Waco when we come out of this.
Absolutely. And to borrow a phrase from Fiona Bond of Creative Waco, she pointed it out that this brand and this version of the art scene here in Waco is very much in its infancy and is very much vulnerable. Obviously, everyone is and everything is, but particularly the art scene, because of it is just in its infancy. So if you do want to see that in the future, definitely find ways to support it.
And that's a really great point with Fiona. She has been a huge supporter of artists and musicians. So Creative Waco created the makeitinwaco.com website, which is a very Waco Etsy-esque website where local artists, musicians, even physical artists can actually go and create a profile with their Square account and sell their art. There are even people selling experiences like the Brazos Theater. They're doing virtual improv comedy, where every Saturday night for a donation-based ticket, so you can pay nothing, you can pay $1, you can pay $25, whatever you feel like giving to help support the Brazos Theater during a time like this.
Yeah, people have gotten very creative in how they're having to reinvent themselves sort of on the fly.
Of course. And I think we're all going to be, I think that when we come out of this, and this is the positive thinking person deep inside of me, because I like to see the bright side of everything, I think our entertainment scene is going to be forever changed when we come out of this. And I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think it's almost kind of like the globalization of maybe Waco music scene. Maybe there's a way to stream our concerts live, you know, when we do have in-person concerts, and kind of try to reach that broader audience.
Yeah, I think that the technology has certainly become much more important, obviously, to everybody. Folks are doing Zoom meetings that never even heard of the word Zoom before. You know, they are, you know, from Sunday school classes on down to, you know, Rotary clubs, you name it. They're having to use this technology. And I think it may be something that will really be embraced.
So too.
In the future. Let's talk a little bit about the two of you, though. I want to learn more about you guys. This certainly Keep Waco Loud is a huge passion of yours. But what do you do for a living?
So both of us have our 9 to 5s that, pay our bills. Cause as much as we love Keep Waco Loud and it doesn't keep food on the table. So we do have, not yet, maybe one day, but
Someday, maybe.
right now, I work for we both work remotely. So our work life actually didn't change much.
Yeah, we were blessed in that way. The transition was easier than for most people.
I'm sure.
So we both work. I work for a company out of San Francisco. Do a lot of back office work. It's not really as fun and glamorous as Keep Waco Loud, but I really do enjoy it. I get to help startups and help them run their back offices in their companies and keep them afloat, which has been a really important thing to do in a time like this. A lot of our clients, needed the PPP loans and SBA loans, so we've been able to facilitate that for them and help them keep their doors open, which was, it's been really nice to be able to be pivotal in helping them.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great.
I actually work on the other coast.
He works in New York.
I work remotely in New York
Right.
for a construction company that's just like anyone else there, has been rocked to its core.
Mhm.
Completely shut down.
Completely shut down. So we're still puttering along, getting stuff ready for when stuff opens back up is the name of the game right now, I think, for most companies.
So how did you two meet?
We actually met in Houston back in 2013.
Okay, scandal alert.
No. No. Oh my goodness. It's a very unconventional way, but I think that it really helped us build the bond that we had. I got a job working in Houston, and I needed to get an apartment really quickly. And so I looked online, and there was a room that came available because I needed something cheap. I was only 23 years old. I needed something cheap and fast. And Jacob's house, which had 8 bedrooms and 7 roommates, needed a person to move in, and that was me.
And then
Sounds like you need a job.
history.
Yeah, it's a little unconventional, but I ended up getting a transfer. My job wanted to move me to New York, and I asked Jacob. Our friendship was blossoming. I really liked him, and I'd never been to New York, and he had. So I asked him to come with me, and he did.
Aw. I love that.
Yeah,
love that.
almost
So-
8
so-
years now.
Did she tell it correctly, Jacob?
Yeah, almost verbatim correctly. At least that's how we rehearsed it.
That's the story. You're sticking to it. So how long have you guys been together?
This will be we're on our 7th year.
Oh, well, time goes fast.
It
And here we are almost a year into Keep Waco Loud. And you guys have made such a splash in the community with what you're doing.
Well, thank you. And honestly, we say this a lot, it's not me and Jacob, like us and ourselves, like, you just took the time to get to know us, but really on paper, we're not that interesting. It's what makes us interesting enough to where people as talented and amazing as you want to talk to us is the scene itself. And I think it's our passion for the scene and growing the scene. And it's been a fun ride. This past year has been so much fun. We've met so many amazing people. And I think one of the cool things about Keep Waco Loud has been its ability to put the right people in the room together and create these really cool connections. And these different collaboration projects, Lindsay Lippman.
Oh yeah, she comes to mind for sure with what she did with hip hop music, and it was just an incredible thing that happened
Really
from
was.
those connections.
Yeah, and it's just those crazy connections that are able to. Things like the open mic night, people meeting up there. It's almost like a co-working event or what, one of those things.
Co-working space.
Like a co-working space where these musicians get together and all of a sudden they decide they want to collab or this guy wants to film someone's music video or, different, like a guitarist might start playing a song with the saxophonist that they have never met before and they're just up there jamming. And it's just a cool melting pot of talent.
Energy is really what propelled, I think, Keep Waco Loud, just positive energy, people wanting to see these different things and having a passion for these different types of things and putting in the same love that we have for it. So it's just incredible. And really having a moment to look back on it fondly, obviously, has been a blessing too, because we at the end of the year, we were like, okay, it's time to pause. We have not taking a solid break in 6 to 7 months
Mhm.
and really having the chance to do it right now is in its own way silver lining to just look back and reflect
But
on
at the
it.
same time, think about all the ways that we can move forward.
You got a hard pivot.
I think one thing that helped keep Waco loud and that energy is one of our biggest mottos at the very beginning, or our biggest, we never wanted to create an event that we wouldn't want to go to. And
Absolutely.
and it's like, we want to keep it authentic. We want to keep it fun. And we want to create things that other people want to go to and enjoy. And we're so happy that other people wanted to get on board with us.
Oh, they are. You've been amazing facilitators. That's the word that kind of comes to my mind about what you're doing. The talent, the music is all out there, but drawing it all together is what you have been brilliant at. And I'm just so happy that here we are a year later, and certainly want to do this again in another year and see where it'll be interesting to see where things take us. As we kind of come to a conclusion, I like to end these interviews with a questionnaire. It's sort of similar to the one the late James Lipton used on his show Inside the Actor's Studio. Are you familiar with that at all?
Yes, I am.
His show? Okay. All right, here we go. This is my version. What's your favorite word?
Ooh. Absolutely. That is totally my favorite word. I've even gotten in trouble for, like, I've had previous bosses who at first were like, you kind of use the word absolutely a lot. And then by the end of the time I've worked for them, they were like, I love that you say the word absolutely, because absolutely is a positive, uplifting word that it's kind of like you're affirming something in a positive way. It's way better than sure or yes or okay. It's like, you know what? Absolutely. Let's get to work on that. Or, I absolutely agree with you.
Good.
I didn't know that was her favorite word. Okay.
There you go.
Well, I think I really like the word, and I use it a lot on our podcast, and Katie constantly calls me out for it, is the word segue.
Segue.
Because I kind of consider myself on our podcast the person that is trying to continue the momentum of the conversation in a good way, in a proper way, keeping on topic. So I do use the word segue a lot.
He sometimes uses it in the wrong way. It's like, oh, that's a great segue. It's like, no, that did not segue to the next thing.
That's just a way to joke about it. Like,
but it's an important thing to be able to do, to segue. Okay, so I will do that with what's your least favorite word?
Ooh.
Man, that's a toughie.
Actually, so this is like completely off, like it's off brand or whatnot. I really hate the word wisp. And I don't know why, but it just sounds weird. And I hate when somebody uses the word wisp. It doesn't resonate well in my brain. It almost like nails on a chalkboard.
Really? Okay.
I think I genuinely despise folks that, and this is generally like a guy talking to another guy, when they call you chief. I really sincerely bothers me because it's a use of belittlement. So I think that would be it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I get that. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Ooh. I think social interaction, for sure. Being in groups of people that are all there for a common purpose, whether that's like a birthday party or a concert or, a book club, just people coming together, wanting to be there with a common, purpose of being there and just being in those social interactions. I'm a very social person, and I think that's something that really kind of caused Keep Waco Loud to kind of start, was that desire to, be in those types of groups.
Yeah, I would actually second that. But as a true Gemini, I have multiple, personalities. So it would be social, but then on the other hand, there are moments where I just need a quote unquote weighted blanket around me to stay focused and really just, laser focused. So it's either I need a group of people, or you need to leave me the heck alone so I can think about this for a second.
Yeah. Okay. So what turns you off? Considering.
Ooh, I think any kind of narrow-mindedness. Not even if I don't agree with somebody, which, I don't agree with people all the time. It's that inability to shut off and say, I don't even want to listen to your side, or I don't want to talk further with you, or I don't even want to consider putting myself in your shoes or in that other person's shoes or whatnot. It's that inability to, it's people. I mean, there have been times where people didn't like Keep Waco Loud because, I've had people overheard or had people tell me that so-and-so said something because, you know, they kind of liked the way that the music scene was. And
Oh no.
yeah, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
But like at the same time, there's such a bigger world out there, and there's so much more out there, and there's so much more in Waco that I just want everyone to be able to be heard. And yeah, I think narrow-mindedness.
Yeah, I think I could take a walk down that road a little more. It's inability, working with somebody that has an inability for abstract thought. And I kind of think it goes hand in hand with narrow-mindedness. You have to be able to sort of, quote unquote, use your third eye sometimes to really wrap your brain around the way a show is going to look, or a type of brand of music maybe that you don't like, but you can see why it is good technically. I think it's, inability for abstract thought is really big for me.
Good. Well, you kind of specialize in sound with the music scene, but what sound do you love the most?
Ooh, great hard-hitting questions. I love these.
These are actually really fun.
Yeah.
What sound do I love the most? You know, honestly, I really like rain.
Yeah.
I like rain in the morning, like with a little bit of thunder and, you know, just kind of like rain in the morning. It's so nice. I really like that.
I think that probably I love the sound of my own guitar.
Aw.
Yeah.
I bet Katie loves that too.
Yeah.
It's pretty lovely.
Yeah. It makes it's that weighted blanket for me too.
Oh yeah. What sound do you hate?
Oh, styrofoam, 100%. Oh God, I hate styrofoam. There's nothing worse than when you have a box that has the styrofoam that perfectly fits the box.
Oh yeah.
You take it out, it like scrapes. Oh.
In a similar fashion, I hate the sound of nails scratching rough fabric. It drives me mad.
Oh yeah.
You like that electric negative shock.
What other profession would you like to try?
I think I would like to do something if I could go back and knowing what I know now at 30, at like 21 or 20 or 19 when I picked my major, I probably would have liked to go into some sort of like creative advertising. So because I really like creating things and, you know, brainstorming and coming up with ideas. So I think I probably would have done something along those lines with like marketing and advertising.
I think that I would have, if I had the proper attention span to continue my higher education, I would have liked to do something with birds.
Birds?
I'm fascinated.
Become an ornithologist.
And I have always been, since a little kid, been fascinated by birds.
Oh, that's great.
That's horrible.
No, I love that. Okay, what job do you know you would not like at all?
Teacher.
Oof.
I would be a terrible teacher. And I have so much respect for teachers because of the fact that I know that I personally could not handle it. It's a respect for something that it's like, how do they have the attention or the discipline or the ability to handle that many questions or that many like souls? I mean, my mother is a teacher, so I watched her do it, you know, and I have so much respect for my mom.
It's fun to watch Katie around large groups of kids.
Oh God. And Jacob has how many? 21 nieces and nephews? Yeah. Jacob has 21 nieces and nephews. So Christmases are really fun. They're lovely though. I love every single one of them. But I get to send them home to their parents.
For me, I think a job where just a cubicle job. I don't think I could ever do a job where I just have to stay sat at my desk and just do a single task over and over again. I think I would drive myself mad.
Yeah. Okay, finally, what do you want to hear God say to you as you arrive at the pearly gates?
Great job. Here's some wine.
And it would be heavenly, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would be the best wine. It'd be better what I'm drinking right now during no, but it not right now, but during the COVID-19, I miss really nice wine at restaurants. Just, you know, being satisfied with what I created and what, you know, I did in my life. You know, I think one of my biggest fears is, I remember learning in school the term of displacement. And if you died in the same city or the same place that you were born, your displacement would be 0.
Yeah.
And I thought that that was the most terrifying concept of not making any progress in life from beginning to end. And I think that would be like, you know, what was the point? What did you do? What kind of impact did you have? So yeah, I think that's it.
I've never heard that term before.
Yeah, I don't know where I learned it. It was in school, but it was like your life's displacement. If you were, you know, there's like a way of measuring it. I'll send it to you. But if I look it up,
Wow.
but yeah,
Deep thoughts.
I think I would like to hear, hey, you weren't a jerk at all.
oh,
Let's
You
go
weren't.
drink some beer and climb some trees.
I would love to climb some trees.
You guys are so much fun. Thank you for taking a little time to visit with me today on the podcast. It's great, and you know, we're just gonna hang in there until we can all be together again and enjoy that social interaction and enjoy some great music.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for having us. This was really fun. I really loved your questions.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Good. It was a lot of fun, guys. Thanks. Y'all stay safe.
You too.
Central Texas Living is part of the Rogue Media Network family. Be sure to check out their other shows at roguemedianetwork.com. Please rate us 5 stars on iTunes and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Join us again soon for more Central Texas Living, the podcast.
This has been Rogue Media Network Podcast.